What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Mac on Sports episode. June 29th, and the Clippers stay alive. Paul George put the team on his back. Suns needed a closeout victory. They needed to put in their best effort, try to get Chris Paul to his first finals appearance, Devin Booker, Phoenix, get him to a finals. And they couldn't do it. From the tip, LA came out on a 7-0 run, and you could definitely tell there was a different sense of urgency between both teams. You could tell the Clippers came out like the desperate team, down 3-1. They've been in this situation before. They know what it takes. And you look at the Suns, looked a little lackluster, just whatever, going through the motions, just getting out-hearted, out-muscled, outplayed for every single loose ball possible, every single thing you could think of. Well, Paul George, on the other hand, here we go. Playoff P, career high. Now, we're talking 41 points, 13 rebounds on 15 to 20 shooting. 15 out of 20 from the field. And you have Mark Jackson over here just chirping him in the first half, saying he's not playing hard enough, yada, yada. I thought he played well. I thought he did good. He was contributing on all aspects, defense and offense. And not only that was he chiming in, but he played great. And then DeMarcus Cousins coming off the bench was a huge X factor. You get DeMarcus Cousins coming into his career. He used to play on the Sacramento Kings, and we all know the Kings suck. They're one of the, probably the worst franchise of all time in the NBA, or close to. But he played in 14 career playoff games so far, and he's bounced around on different teams, whatever. But tonight's 15 points was his highest of his career. Boogie had a great night. And I thought he was a huge X factor because he was giving DeAndre Ayton problems. He was giving all those guys problems. And Ty Lue is 10-2 in elimination games. When his back's against the wall, he's making adjustments. So fair enough to Ty Lue because he's making things happen. But the Clippers just stay alive, keep chipping away, and it's going back to LA now. And ever since game 2. If we're looking at game 2, so game 1, Devin Booker has his career game, right? Goes insane, triple-double, goes over 45 points, has the game of his life. Okay, Suns deserve to win that. Well, let's look at game 2. Jay Crowder has to put a perfect pass for an alley-oop for DeAndre Ayton to score. Okay? He had to do a perfect pass for DeAndre Ayton to score. Else the Clippers win that game. And the Clippers were probably the better team. Nah, Suns were, but the Clippers were going to steal that game. So it could have been 1-1 there. Let's look at game 3. Clippers handled the Suns. Devin Booker played terrible. That was his first game with his mask. Played terrible. Clippers could have been up 2-1 in that situation. Game 4 was just an ugly game. And there was a couple questionable calls down the line we can look at. Maybe Campaign dribbled the ball out of bounds or something like that. Not Campaign. Someone on the Suns. Ball could have went out on them. And Paul George or someone on the Clippers could have hit a game winner. There's so many ifs in this series so far. But the Clippers are in this series, and I wouldn't be surprised if they can come back from 3-1 down. Do I think they are? I don't. I think the Suns are. But the Suns have had some close and lucky, per se, you can even say, some lucky games. They got to pick up the intensity because tonight, game 5 in Phoenix, you have a chance to go to the finals. You would want to come out with effort. You should be the desperate team. You're the team trying to close it out. You're the team, And if you look at the Suns, there's just no defensive effort tonight, which I thought they've been very well all season long and all playoff long on the defensive side of the ball, and they were not good tonight. Rebounding wasn't there. Just the effort just seemed a little off from Phoenix. And the Clippers, hey, you got to give credit to where credit's due. They came out knowing their backs were against the wall. They didn't want their season to end. Zubac got ruled out, so they're already down a body. You still have Kawhi out with his little injury. And when you need a guy like Paul George, another all-star to step up, he was there. You can't even talk about Paul, though. He played great, but Reggie Jackson has a swagger and a confidence to him where he is outplaying everybody right now. Chris Paul didn't play well because Reggie Jackson did. There was just a lot of stuff. And what I don't like about the NBA here, it pisses me off, it's kind of a minutes-oriented thing. You're going to get your minutes no matter what, and you know when you're going to play, if you're going to start, and when you're going to end the game. Not many coaches try to mix their rotations around. And here's my big thing. I think the Suns' best player, besides Devin Booker had another decent game, over 28, 30 points, something like that. He played well, but he wasn't even the best player to me. It didn't feel that way. It was Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson brought energy plays for the Suns. He was trying to create sparks. That's what I thought the Phoenix Suns lacked, was a spark throughout the whole team. Cam Johnson brought that energy. And here's what makes me mad about the Suns. Monty Williams, Cam Johnson hits a big three, basically goes on a run by himself, defense and offensive side of the ball. And a couple minutes left, 4 or 5 minutes left, Jay Crowder comes back in the game. Jay Crowder was terrible. Jay Crowder was absolutely terrible. And he came in from Cam Johnson. Maybe Cam Johnson was winded and needed a breather. Use a timeout. Or have him come out for 30 seconds or whatever and bring him back in. Because Cam Johnson was the reason you were even in that situation in the first place to have a game. And then it just went downhill from there because Jay Crowder. That's what I don't like about the NBA. You got to play your best in crunch time. No matter how talented or whatever. If that means you have to take out a starter, do it. Do it. But the Clippers stay alive. And Game 6 is going to be interesting because if LA wins that, Game 7, it's anybody's game. It's anybody's game in Game 7. So Phoenix has to wait another day to clinch a playoff spot. Now we shift over to the Eastern Conference. Wow. Last time we talked, Hawks were up 1-0. Now the Bucks are up 2-1. The Bucks have officially awoken. Chris Middleton, future Olympian. Wow. When he gets hot, he's not missing. Fourth quarter of Game 3's performance in Atlanta. The Atlanta Hawks were terrible. Now we can go back and we can talk about Trae Young unfortunately having an ankle injury by stepping on the ref and all that and rolling his ankle. That was probably a big factor of the game where it got changed. Pretty big portion of it. And yes, the Hawks were winning most of the night. They looked like a good team and possibly were going to win. And then when Trae goes down with an injury, that's your score. That's your score. Things get tough at that point. But at the same time, yes, he's battling an injury, but other guys got to step up. In the fourth quarter alone, when you score 17 points as a total team, that's a problem. That's unacceptable, especially in the playoffs. That is completely unacceptable. You cannot have that. And when you have a guy like Chris Middleton, who we were just talking about, score 20 points just in the fourth quarter alone, outscored the Atlanta Hawks by himself, where he accounted for 20 of his 38 just in the fourth. He played well, had 18 coming up into the fourth, and then all of a sudden, he just was on fire. 3 assists away from a triple-double. Chris Middleton had a phenomenal game. Giannis played great. Bucks go up 2-1. So Atlanta had their home court. You went on, you took Game 1, you tried to split there. Well, Milwaukee's just got home court back. And Game 4 is pivotal because this is a game, just like we talked last series about the Hawks. If they would have lost Game 4 probably to Philadelphia, the series more than likely was over. Well, they persevered, they kept fighting, they won Game 4, and you saw what happened from there. You know, Ben Simmons isn't even playing for the Australian national team because the Hawks broke him because he sucks. But, you know, Hawks have to win this game because you can't go back to Milwaukee and expect to win 5, 6, and Game 7. So the Hawks, I am declaring it as a must-win. And we don't know Trae Young's status. He's questionable right now. Is he going to play? Is he not? And if I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play. But if he doesn't, the Hawks are in for a very, very tough game. But credit to Mike Budenholzer and the Bucks for making adjustments after Game 1 because the Bucks dominated Game 2, and then Game 3 they persevered. In that fourth quarter, they pulled away. Hawks just were struggling to shoot, and you could tell. So that's it for the NBA, though. We shift down to the Lightning Stanley Cup final Game 1. Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Montreal Canadiens. So coming into this, the Montreal Canadiens, out of about 31 NHL teams this year, the Canadiens were the 18th team. 18th team. That is nowhere near good enough for being able to play in the playoffs. There was 12 teams that made the playoffs, and they were the 18th team. But they got into a lucky division where it wasn't as powerful as the rest of the divisions. They sneak in. And all of sports. All of sports. If you get hot at the right time, it's truly unbelievable what can happen, and that's exactly what's going on with Montreal. They got hot at the right time. You saw after the Lightning game, when they were down 3-1 and came back and won the series, they've been on a tear since. So they got themselves into the Stanley Cup final versus the Red Hot Lightning. So I do think this is going to go 4. No, I'll give credit to Montreal. I had a bad take last on both series, so this is probably going to go 7, right? Just because I'm saying it's going to go 5. Tampa Bay is going to win 5. After watching Game 1, Tampa Bay's they're the best team in the NHL. They're the best team in the NHL. It's going to be tough for Montreal, Carey Price to keep them in it, guys like that, because Tampa Bay looks good. Tampa Bay looks good, and they protected home ice in Game 1. And Tampa Bay, all 4 lines produce, every single one of them. They're going to get points. They're going to do their job, and they're a good team. Montreal, if you can somehow win Game 2, we got a series. But this is probably one of the more lopsided Stanley Cups in a while, in my opinion. And like I said, don't be the least bit surprised if this finds a way to go 6 or 7 and be an amazing series, just because I think it's not going to be. Because that seems to be a reoccurring thing where I say something and the other thing happens. But Lightning take Game 1, and their atmosphere was great. Tampa Bay trying to go back-to-back champs. Could they do it? We shall see. Now, we're going to talk college baseball here. A guy we've talked about before is Jack Leiter, and we're going to get to Jack Leiter in a second. But I want to talk about this team, the NC State Wolfpack, and how the NCAA handled this opportunity so incredibly terrible. If you don't know, NC State, there was a Final Four, Vanderbilt, NC State, Texas, and Mississippi State. Well, NC State was 2-0 up to this point, and Vanderbilt was 2-1. Vanderbilt needed to beat NC State 2 times to advance to the College World Series. NC State needed to do it 1 time. Well, when they played their first game against each other, Game 1, NC State had 13 players. 13 players. 9 field players and 4 pitchers. Now, a bunch of them had COVID, so that basically spread throughout the team, and a bunch of their players weren't allowed to play. So they go on with the game, and NC State held their own. They had opportunities where they could have won this game against arguably the number 1 pitcher in the MLB draft this upcoming year, Kumar Rocker. NC State had a chance to win the game. Vanderbilt pulls away with it. Okay, so you go into that next day, and it's winner take all, goes to the College World Series. Well, the NCAA at 2 in the morning decides to come out with a statement saying the game is going to be canceled and Vanderbilt's going to have an automatic bid to the championship. So NC State, after playing over 60 games this year, beating the number 1 team in the country, Arkansas, in Fayetteville, by the way, and then being road warriors throughout their super regional, and advancing there to get to the College World Series and winning their first 2 games and then losing 1. So basically a winner take all to have a chance to play in a World Series, a championship. The NCAA pulls it away from them because it's not safe enough for the players and the teams that could spread COVID. So 24 hours before that, when they played Game 1 of that series, it was okay. Even though, basically, that was kind of more unknown. Because the next day you could test people, and if they test negative, they should be able to play. But when all the positive tests came back the day before, you still went on with the game. You still played it anyway. And so 24 hours later, you're telling me something changed. Where NC State wasn't allowed to play for their season when they've deserved to get that far. NC State got unbelievably screwed. Unbelievably screwed. It's ridiculous. And the NCAA handled this situation horrible, I think. You got to let them play. If they're healthy enough to play, they should be able to play. You need 9 players to play. If you have 9 healthy players, they should have had the opportunity to go on and play. And I do end up thinking Vanderbilt would have beaten them anyway in Game 2 to advance, but it's not fair to NC State. So, NCAA said it wasn't safe having them in the stadium, yada, yada, yada. So, after the Mississippi State-Texas game, NC State got to come in as a team and take a team picture. Because no matter what, when they lost or won, they were going to take a team picture at Omaha because it's memories that you're going to make a lifetime, forever. And you're telling me it was safe for them to still come to the stadium and all that and then go take a picture and then leave back to North Carolina, but they couldn't play a game against Vanderbilt, who they just played little less than 24 hours ago. I think that's poor by the NCAA. They always find a way to make the wrong decision. I'm sorry for the Wolfpack. NC State deserved better. They get screwed. That's all I can say. But we move on to the College World Series Championship. Jack Leiter and the Vanderbilt Commodores versus Mississippi State. Well, a lot of people think this is an unlucky advantage for Mississippi State coming into this series, with Vanderbilt being able to get their game postponed, or not postponed, but just an automatic no contest and advancing. It got to save Jack Leiter from having to pitch Game 3 in an elimination game against North Carolina State, where he gets to pitch Game 1. So Jack Leiter, look, 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, 3 hits given up. Jack Leiter's filthy. There's no other way to put it. Mississippi State didn't have a hit until late in the game. Like, Jack Leiter gave up a solo shot to James in the first inning, and after that, he settled in. He got into his zone and started to shove. Mississippi State pitched McLeod. He had a 4.60 ERA coming into this game, and he got rocked. He got rocked. I think it was 7-1 at the end of the first inning, and his ERA was almost a 5, so Mississippi State was having to fight back all night, and it just wasn't enough. Vanderbilt 1 win away from the SEC Championship. They got great fans down there in Starkville, Mississippi. You can hear them loud and proud, but Vanderbilt goes up 1-0. Jack Leiter shoves. This team's special at Vanderbilt. I think this goes 3. We'll see. But to end the show now, to end it, the Euros are so unbelievably awesome. I cannot get my head around it. And the 2016 Euros was awesome. I didn't think it was going to be beaten for a very long time. The 2020 Euros has had everything. Everything. It's had 9 own goals. 9 own goals. You've had 2 of the greatest games of soccer of all time. Penalty shootouts, red cards, game winners. Unreal. Everything we're getting. So, basically, let's just start with this. On Monday afternoon, there's 2 games, and they were both the best games of the tournament so far, and it's not even close. On Monday, we had 2 games, 14 goals in 2 games, comebacks, extra time, penalties, and an underdog beating the champs. What a day. What a day in soccer. No team in Euros history had trailed by multiple goals, meaning 2 or more goals, after the 80th minute and not lost in 90 minutes. So you had a 2-goal lead, you were not going to lose the last 10 minutes of the game. You were going to come out with a win no matter what. It happened not only once in the Croatia-Spain game, but it happened a second time in the Switzerland-France game. What a stat. What a stat. We're going to get into both those games in a second. So, basically, I think coming into this that I'm watching Croatia-Spain and there's no way this game's going to get beaten, right? You look and it had the worst own goal I've ever seen in a very long time. Spain played it back to their goalie. The guy went to go do a touch with it. It rolled right over his foot into the back of the net for an own goal. It's an out. You can't be any more lonely on a lone island than that. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. Then Spain gets 1. Then they get 2. And then they go up 3-1. It's 3-1 in the 76th minute by Ferran Torres, Manchester City wonder kid. He's going to be good one day. He gets them up 3-1. Whatever. You think this is over and Spain's going to move on with flying colors to the next round. Wrong. Wrong. Because Croatia wasn't done yet. The 85th minute, they score 1 to get themselves back in the game. And then in the 92nd minute, the second minute to stoppage time, close to like the last kick of the game, they score off of a header to tie it at 3. So you have dramatic scenes. It's going mental. 3-3 now going into extra time. And just right alone, it's already the best game of the tournament so far. Well, then you get to extra time, and Alvaro Morata, who's gotten a lot of backlash from the Spanish fans, he puts 1 in the back of the net. Spanish fans have threatened his family, threatened him, so much stuff like that. His kids, it's horrible. But he puts 1 in the back of the net, and then they get another one for an insurance, and they win 5-3 to move on to the next round. That was a classic. What a game. And you could not think this is going to get... There can't be another game like that the rest of the tournament, and surely can't be like that on the same day. Wrong. France versus Switzerland is one of the best games I've ever watched. One of the best games. Switzerland comes out on the front foot. They score off of a Stevanovic header. Beautiful header, world class. Puts it in where Hugo Lloris couldn't save it. 1-0 Switzerland. So you're watching, you're thinking, okay, well, fair enough, Switzerland, that's a good start to the game, 1-0. But you're playing the world champions of the world in France. So, of course, France is going to probably come back, right? Oh, they do. They do. 57th minute, after the big spark was Switzerland gets a penalty, and Hugo Lloris saves the penalty, which Cristiano Ronaldo went 5 for 5 on penalties this year in the Euros, and the rest of everyone else combined went 5 out of 12. That's a crazy stat as it is. But they get a pen. It's saved by Lloris. France goes down on a counterattack. Karim Benzema with an unbelievable world-class touch. The ball was played behind him. Somehow does a phenomenal touch where I couldn't do that in a million tries. And then flicks the keeper. 1-1. What a goal. France looks like, all right, they hit a switch. That penalty save got them back in this. Here we go. Well, 59th minute, 2 minutes later, Benzema scores a header. Boom. Looks like it's over now, right? Switzerland hasn't really been on the attack. Now France has a 2-1 lead. It's looking like no chance that Switzerland can win this. And then Paul Pogba might have scored the goal of the tournament outside the box with an absolute curling masterpiece, upper 90. No keeper in the world saving it. What a goal by Pogba in the 75th minute. 3-1. France, Spain. What a game we're going to get. Not so fast, because Stefanovic keeps Switzerland back in this. He gets 1-3 too. And now you're just watching like, oh, hey, all right, whatever, it's a goal, keep things interesting. Well, in the 90th minute, a solo run by Granatovic. What a goal. Gets it, opens up his body, turns a perfect turn, and then on his right foot puts one lower left. No, Lloris couldn't get to it. 3-3. I'm screaming, jumping up and down at home because we're getting extra time and a chance at penalties. And then we did. Extra time goes back and forth. Basically, this whole entire game was back and forth, back and forth. This was not one of those boring games where you're just going to pass it around the back line the whole game, make an attack, and then pass it back to the goalie and see what you can get in possession-oriented game. No, this was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This was awesome. So, all of a sudden, we get to penalties. And everyone's just scoring great penalties, which penalties takes a lot of pressure, and it's hard thing to do. Well, no keeper could save anything. We get to 4-4, and Switzerland goes up 5-4. So it all comes down to Kylian Mbappe, which some think could be the best striker in the world, or he will be one day, versus Sommer from Switzerland. France scores. We go into a sudden death. France misses, and Switzerland gets a save. Switzerland, the odds were if you would have put down a $100 bet on Switzerland to win, you would have gotten $500. The big underdogs end up saving Kylian Mbappe's pen. Switzerland moves on to the next round. What a game. What a game. And it was probably the best day of soccer I've ever watched. Those games were as electrifying as you could actually get. Like, no joke. They were so unbelievably awesome. And if you guys watched, you know what I'm talking about. You know the excitement that was in it. And if you didn't, go watch the highlights, both games, because they were insane. They were insane. The Euros have been so good this year. So good. I mean, you got the defending world champs out right now. You have the last Euro champions in Portugal to get eliminated as they lost to Belgium. Belgium now moves on to the next round against Italy. That should be a tasty game. That's going to be great. Ronaldo, you know, he gave it all he had. They couldn't get the job done against Belgium. And then you look at an upset of the tournament. The Czech Republic knock off the Netherlands. All these big countries getting upset all of a sudden. It's all because of D-Legit does a handball, gets a red card, and after that, Patrick Schick and Czech Republic, the floodgates open, and they move on to the next round as well. as well. It's absolutely mental what we're getting. You had extra time in the Italy versus Austria game. Austria doesn't really look like a team that has a chance against a team like Italy, and they did. They took them to extra time, and then Chiesa, Juventus winger, I believe, scores a great goal. Took a great touch, put one in the back of the net. It was great, and then they get an insurance goal, and Italy moves on. But every game we're getting are good games. Down to the wire, everything. And some of the big dogs are going out. It's been an amazing Euros. And now, Tuesday morning, I'm sure most of you are listening to it before the Germany-England game or after. You'll know the result. But come on, England! Come on, because this has opened up for England. I've said this multiple times to you guys before. I think it's coming home. I really do. I said at the beginning of the beginning of my Euro predictions, I think England has a chance to bring it home. And you look at the brackets, they do. If they can find a way to beat Germany, if they can, I believe it's coming home back in England. I at least think they'll go to the final. If they don't get to the final, that'll be an absolute shambles if they don't. But Germany, England, what a game that's going to be. I'm excited for that one. That's going to be crazy. England people do not have to go to work on Tuesday as they get drunk and watch football. That was the quote. So businesses are going to shut down for the England-Germany game because the passion in England is mental. I absolutely love it. I love it. But these Euros are awesome. There's no other way to put it. Down to the wire each game. And I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of it, especially because in summer, you don't have many sports, right? You have the NBA, but you have the NHL, but that's early summer. Now it's kind of cut down where you don't have anything throughout the daytime, and the Euros are exactly what you need. A time filler, an amazing entertainment that doesn't have you bored, and something you can really get behind and enjoy. What a time this Euros has been. Come on, England. It's been another great show. I love you guys. Go follow the socials. They'll be in the descriptions. And I'll see you guys later. Peace out.